And so I'm going to give you an example of this. Let me illustrate it personally, and then I think that gets us on track for you. Every year, I've done this for 20 years. Every year, I pick one word for that whole year. Every year, it's just one word. And somebody said, "Well, why only one word?" I said, "That's about all I can handle is one. I can't handle a sentence or a paragraph's kind of beyond me. I can just keep it down, keep it simple, one word." And so every year, about this time, I began thinking, reflecting, just kind of going and taking time, meditating, and ask myself, what's going to be my one word? And for example, this year, I've already got my +1 for this year, and it's value. That is my word for 2021. And the way I would say it is, I am a person of value, okay, that adds value to people and values people. Now, you see, this is a big word. This one word is going to shape 2021 on how I think. It's just +1. I'm just doing one extra thing this year that's going to shape my thinking for the entire year. I'm going to value myself. I'm going to value others. I'm going to add value to others. I'm going to live good values. I'm going to value my time. You're getting the picture, aren't you? Value. It's the one word. Now, +1, you don't have to pick one word. But what basically we're asking you to do is pick one thing. What's the one thing that is going to, in 2021, greatly improve your life? And we're not asking you to pick a lot of things. We're just asking you to, what's the one thing? What's the +1 that you're going to say, okay, in 2021, this is the thing that I'm going to really focus on that's going to expand me, improve me, to make me a better person. Now, here's the reason I love this incredible theme of +1. +1 to me means three things, okay? I'm back now to Aristotle. One is a great number. Well, this +1 theme, it means three things to me, and I want to give them to you because I think it's going to mean the same three things to you. Number one is, +1 is, first of all, doable. It's doable. And why is it doable? Because it's only one thing. You see, I immediately get encouraged at 2021 when I realize just one thing, not many things. You see, one thing is encouraging. Many things is exhausting. And so when you look at 21, you say, "Oh my gosh, it's a new year, and I gotta make 7 changes here, and I gotta make 3 more directions." And now, after a while, I get very weary. I get very tired. I just kind of get bogged down. But when I'm asked to do one thing and just follow that one thing throughout the whole year and do it consistently, it's something that's going to improve my life, hopefully something that's going to improve the life of others. Now, all of a sudden, that's very exhilarating to me. I think, okay, I can do one thing. Christy and I were talking a little bit ago about golf. She likes to play golf. I like to play golf. We both like to play fast golf. Neither one of us are maybe great golfers, but it doesn't really matter. We're just out there to enjoy ourselves. And so we were talking about golf, and Christy, it reminds me of several years ago, I was playing golf with one of my friends that's a very, very, in fact, he's a scratch golfer. And so we're playing, and about 3 or 4 holes into the game, he said, "John," he said, "I'm watching." He said, "There's really only one thing wrong with your golf game." And as soon as he said one thing, I thought, oh my gosh, I felt so good because I thought, wow, one thing, I can fix one thing. So I asked him, I said, "Well, what's the one thing?" He said, "I've watched you now for 3 or 4 holes." And he said, the one thing, he said, "Here's what I've noticed." He said, "You're too close to the ball after you hit it." Now, when he told me that one thing, I was too close to the ball after I hit it, that meant I had to make a lot of changes. So the one thing all of a sudden was no longer exhilarating. I thought, oh my gosh, this is the reason that I'm not a scratch golfer. Well, what I love about +1 is we're not trying to confuse you here. We're just saying, pick one thing that's going to improve your life this year that you can do, and you can do it every day, and you can do it consistently because consistency compounds. That's huge. That's another subject in itself. But pick the one thing. I have a friend, in fact, I mentored him, Dan Ryan. I mentored him for many, many, many years. And he has I love it. He has a great expression. And often we're in conversation, and he'll say to somebody, "Pick a rabbit. Pick a rabbit." And he gets that from you, the old saying that if you chase 2 rabbits, both of them escape. Well, the reason if you chase, when you chase two rabbits, you're divided. Well, I'll go get, oh no, my gosh, I got to get this one, and this one's a little closer. And pretty soon, all that hesitation because you're trying to make too many choices, the rabbits are gone. And so Dan just looks at people. He says, hey, pick a rabbit, would you? And all he's saying to is, could you just figure out what's the one thing that you're going to do and stay with it, and so you can catch the rabbit. Every year in one of my companies, we do a what we call a Live to Lead, L2L conference. It's a big simulcast that goes out to tens of thousands of people around the world. And we just had it a couple of months ago. And Kat Cole, who is the COO and president of Focus Brands, a terrific, oh my gosh, she's a terrific leader. She was talking about prioritizing one thing. And so she said that when she was in Africa doing some philanthropy work, she asked the tribes there that she was working with, she asked them, she said, give me the top 5 things that you need. And she's thinking, maybe I can meet 2 or 3 of those needs. What are the top 5 things you need? And she said, here's what's interesting, John. She said, when I asked them the 5 things they need, they said, well, number 1, we need clean water. Number 2, we need clean water. Number 3, we need clean water. Number 4, we need clean water. Now, number 5, we need clean water. In other words, they needed one thing. Now, she asked for 5, so they just said it 5 times, but clean water, clean water, clean water, clean water, clean water. And I'll tell you what, this lesson is all about, don't miss this. This lesson is all about what's my water? What's my water for 2021? What's the one thing that I just know that if I just would do this, it would improve my life tremendously. And by the way, until that one thing is decided on and until that one thing is done, everything begins to be a distraction to us. What I tell people all the time is if they can't find one thing, they'll be distracted by many things. And so it goes back to an incredible statement that I teach. I have a whole lesson on this, so don't have time to talk about it now, that's for sure. But I have an entire lesson entitled, What You Focus On Expands. Because it's just very, very true. And so what we're asking you to do for 2021 in plus one is to focus on one thing. And by the way, when you have picked it and you start doing your one thing, you can say an emphatic yes to it. And by the way, then all those distractions, you can say also a very emphatic, vigorous no to that. Because you now have your one thing. You see, success isn't about doing a lot of things. Success is about doing the right thing or the main thing. And so I love the plus one theme because it's doable. In other words, I look at that and say, I can do it. And by the way, you can do it. So what's it going to be? What's going to be your one thing? The second thing that I love about this theme, plus one, is that plus one is personal. It's not only doable. In other words, I can do it because it's only one thing, but it's personal because I get to choose the one thing. I'm not choosing the one thing for you. Christy, Lindy, they're not choosing the one thing for you. They're asking you to choose that one thing. You pick out that one thing. And this is powerful. Hey, remember this always. Personal is powerful. Always has been, always will be. When people are empowered to make their own choice, there comes an amazing amount of power with that because we have said it's your choice. It's your call. I have a wonderful friend, Susan Galbraith, and she was at an event that I was doing a major virtual recording with, and she had a sweatshirt on, and in the front of her sweatshirt, it just said, 2020 sucks. And I just started laughing. I said, Susan, I love this. I love this sweatshirt. You're putting right out in front of yourself what everybody else, 2020 sucks. And then she said, oh, but that's not the whole shirt. And she pulled out her over here, her arm on the sleeve. And on the sleeve, she had these words, choose joy. And I said, oh my gosh, you're right. 2020 sucks. Choose joy. You see, that worked for Susan because that's a personal choice. She said, I'm not going to be overcome by all the COVID-19 and all the stuff that's just affected all of us in very negative ways. We're not trying to sweep it under the rug. We're just saying that that you can make a choice, and the choice that you can make is choose joy. I've had a long time wonderful friendship with Dennis Waitley, and maybe you've read some of his books, but he's a tremendous motivational leader. And he said we have basically two primary choices in life. And the first choice is to accept the conditions as they are. And in other words, we can't, there are certain circumstances and conditions I can't change. I can wish them away or hope them away or think them away, but they don't go away. In fact, I call that, that's not even a problem. I call that a fact of life. A fact of life is something you can't fix. And so a lot of the stuff that's happened to us in 2020, it's just a fact of life. We're not going to fix that. So the two choices we have is, one, to accept the conditions as they are. Number two, accept the responsibility to change them and to change ourselves. In other words, what happens to me is not as important as what happens in me. And the big loss is never what happens to me. The big loss is always when I don't control what happens in me, when I lose the right perspective, and when I lose the attitude, when I begin to do that. And there's just incredible power in this personal choice. You get to choose the one thing in 2021 that you're going to do. Now, here's why this is huge. What I'm visually sharing with you right now is all you ever need to know about life, okay? Everything worthwhile is uphill. Everything. There's nothing quick, there's nothing easy, there's nothing fast. There are no shortcuts to success. It's all uphill. It's all uphill, every part of it. And this is huge, because what I learned as a leader is we need to accept that life is difficult, life is challenging, life is tough, that there are COVIDs that come into our life, that it's uphill. And what I learned as a leader is I can't carry anyone uphill. I can lead them uphill. I can walk beside them uphill. I can encourage them uphill. I can believe in them, but I can't carry them. And when I carry people, it's because they've never made a choice. And so therefore, I'm substituting an important choice that a person has to make with the fact that I'm trying to carry them, and it just never has worked, and it never will. Everything worthwhile is uphill. So once I understand that, Scott Peck wrote a great book called The Road Less Traveled, and basically the whole thesis of that book is life is difficult, okay? In other words, understand that right on the front end. And the moment that we understand that it's uphill, now all of a sudden, when I make a personal choice, guess what? With that personal choice, I take personal responsibility. What I learned a long time ago, if the choice isn't personal with you, the responsibility will never be personal with you. Personal choice and personal responsibility are inseparably linked together, no question about that. So every day, I wrote a book several years ago called Today Matters. And basically, the thesis of that book is very simple. Every day, I'm either preparing or repairing. That's a fact. I'm either doing what I should do today that sets up success for tomorrow, or I'm not doing what I should do today, which means tomorrow I have to go back and fix yesterday. And I'm either preparing or repairing. And when we say you can make a choice, one thing, a personal choice, what's huge is we're basically saying you can prepare. Wow. You can prepare. One of my mentors in life that was so impacting to me was John Wooden, the great legendary coach of UCLA. And John Wooden would say to me, there is a choice you have to make in everything you do. So keep in mind that the choice you make, in the end, that choice makes you. And so we're giving you an opportunity to make a powerful personal choice. What's the one thing? What's the one thing in 2021 that you're going to do to improve your life? Okay. Well, there's a third reason I love this theme, plus one. First of all, it's doable. One thing. It's personal. Nobody's making the choice for you. You make it yourself. Number three, it's helpful. Oh my gosh, it's so helpful because the one thing that we're wanting you to choose is to improve your life. That the whole question, what is the one thing that you can do in 2021 that will improve your life? And I would want to extend, to be honest with you, and improve the life of others, because whenever you're a leader, you're always thinking beyond yourself of others. Now the question was not, what is the one thing that you can say? What is the one thing that you can wish? What is the one thing that you can intend? What is the one thing that you can hope? What is the one thing you can think? What's the one thing that you can believe? No. What's the one thing you can do? You see, action separates the players from the pretenders. Always has, always will. When I was a kid, my father just passed away on 4th of July. He was 98, and he was just an incredible influence, mentor in my life. So when I'm a kid, he would ask me this little riddle. He'd say, John, 5 frogs are on a log, and 4 decide to jump off. How many frogs are left? I'd say 1. He said, no, 5. I said, what do you mean 5? He said, 4 frogs decide to jump off. He said, that's correct, but just because you decide to jump off doesn't mean you jumped. And then he would talk to me about the importance of action versus good intention. By the way, I think good intention, probably that phrase good intentions, is the most overrated word in the English language, because good intentions does nothing. Hey, good intentions has never made a great marriage. Good intentions has never sold a house. Good intentions are just good intentions, and they're as worthless as can be unless they move to good actions. It's the difference between what I call a trying attitude and doing attitude. You know, when people say I'm never impressed with people say, well, you know what, I'm going to try that. I don't want you to try it. You know what try it means is I'm going to try it. And if it doesn't fit good or doesn't work the first time, or if I don't get it right, I'll quit. Trying has quit. You see, I don't like a trying attitude. I like a doing attitude. And here's the difference, by the way. If you have a trying attitude, you're always asking the question, can I? Wow, can I do this? And the very fact that I ask myself, can I, gives me an excuse for why I can't. You see, a doing attitude never asks, can I? The doing attitude always asks, how can I? In other words, I'm going to do it. Now I'm just figuring out how I'm going. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but I'm doing it. I'm just going to do it. In fact, may do it wrong, but I'm going to do it. You see, I have a whole teaching. It's 45 minutes, so I can't do it now, but it's called Action Attraction. And the whole thesis of this teaching is the fact that nothing is attracted to us until we take action on it. That nothing is attracted to us as long as we have good intentions, or we kind of hope someday we'll do this, or we think that maybe we'll get around that. You see, when you start doing, here's what action attraction is all about. When you start taking action, your mind will think things that you need to know to accomplish the task. And your eyes will see things that you need to see to accomplish the task. And your heart will begin to believe things that you need to believe that will help you accomplish the task. And your attitude will begin to help you think things that will help you to accomplish the task. But nothing happens until you take action. In fact, when you think of, people saying, well, our company's gaining traction, or I'm gaining traction, right in that traction word is action. There is no traction without action. When I love people who say, well, I'm doing some goal setting. Goal setting doesn't impress me at all. I say, why don't you do some goal doing? The last thing I need you to do is set. How many goals are you going to set that you're never going to go after? And by the way, the word goal, the first 2 letters are G-O. I think we ought to just call it go setting, go doing, not goal. Goal, it's kind of like someday I'm going to get around to that. Okay, got 2 more minutes. Let me just kind of wrap this up, because there is kind of a final thought that I want to give you, because this +1 theme is so good. So I asked myself when I was doing this lesson, I just did it about 4 days ago. I asked myself when I was doing this lesson, okay, what would keep any of you, any of us, from not having a +1 year in 2021? What would keep me from choosing and doing the one thing that would improve my life? I mean, what would do? And the only thing I could think of is a fear of failure. The only thing that I can think of that would keep you or me from having a +1 year in 2021 is for us to look at it and say, well, what happens if I can't do that, or if I don't do that, or if I don't accomplish that? And so let me help you with the fear of failure. Again, this is an hour teaching. It's another lesson completely. But you're smart. Since you're so smart, I can do these things to you in 1 minute and 2 minutes because you're just brilliant. I mean, most crowds, this could be hey, for some realty companies, this could be literally a whole day conference. You understand. You're just quicker than others. What am I going to say about that? Okay, here we go. Here's the problem. The problem is we're always separating failure and success. And so we go and say, I want to be successful, and success is over here. And oh my gosh, failure is clear over here. And boy, I want to succeed. Oh yeah, I want it, but boy, I don't want to fail. Don't want to fail. And so we separate. Can I tell you something? Terrible, terrible idea. You should never, ever, ever separate failure and success. They belong together. They do their best work together. I have never met anyone, including Linda and Christy, that told me their success story without it being filled with losses, misses, mess-ups, and failures. And I've never talked to anybody that had a great company that said, you know what, we finally got to a place where we don't have any more problems, issues, difficulties, failures, adversity. It's just, we just finally rose above all that. And now all is good. Let me tell you something. Anybody's talking to you like that, they don't have a company. They're on drugs. You got to understand, you can't separate failure success. So as you pick your one thing, whatever it is, as you pick it, I want you to know right now, there'll be days that you do your one thing really well, and there are going to be some days when you don't do your one thing very well at all. In fact, some days you'll do one thing, and it wasn't a +1. It kind of seemed like a -1 to you. And I just want you to know it's okay. It's okay. My name's John. I'm your friend. Listen to me. It's okay. It's okay. No one ever climbs each step without slipping, falling, and failing. But it's okay. You see, the value of failure is what we learn from it. And the value of learning is how we improve in it. I'm going to go 2 minutes longer than I'm supposed to go because I just got to share this with you because it just popped in my head and I just don't want you to miss it. I have a coaching company. It's only 10 years old, but it's the largest coaching company in the world. 37,000 coaches now in 170 countries. We got it down. We understand coaching, and we certify coaches. Here's the point. That's not the point. Here's the point. People ask me how we built such a successful coaching company so quickly. It's very simple. We have what we call a cycle of success. A cycle of success. I don't have time to teach it, but I'm going to give it to you because this is worth the whole lesson. Trust me, you just start working this cycle of success, and you're going to be in major, major good woods. At the top of the cycle is test. We're always testing. We're always trying things we've never tried before. COVID-19 was beautiful for this reason, wasn't it? It forced us out of our comfort zone. In fact, everything that you want and don't have, everything that you need and don't have, is because it's out of your comfort zone. If it was in your comfort zone, you'd already have it. And one of the beautiful things about COVID-19, it makes us go out of our comfort zone. Here, what am I doing? I'm doing a virtual conference with you right now. Perhaps I would be live if we didn't have COVID-19. What would the issue is very simple. We've had to adjust. So, okay, test, fail. Because if you do a lot of testing, you'll have a lot of failing because you've never done things before like this. And so you're in virgin territory, so you'll have some misses. So we test, we fail, we learn. Oh my. The value of failure is what did you learn from it? 4, we improve. And finally, number 5, after we improve, we re-enter. And that cycle never stops. It's a cycle. The moment we re-enter, we test some more, we fail some more, we learn, we improve, we re-enter. But what's beautiful about that cycle is every time you go through it, you just go a little higher because you learn from what you've already done. And you just literally build your life, you build your business on it. Okay, that's it. One thing. You can do it. Trust me, I know that. What I want to talk about today is, what do we put before us during this time? And what do we put behind us? You see, whatever we put before us, we focus on. What we ever put behind us, we don't focus on. It's not important. It's not a huge priority. And to be honest with you, what we put behind us will shrink, and what we put before us will expand and get clear. So I'm going to throw some stuff at you here in the few minutes that I have, and I won't get through the whole lesson, but it's okay. Let's just talk about, what do we put before us? And by the way, this is a choice we get to make. I get to choose what I put before me. I get to choose what I put behind me in the area of focus. So let's talk about number one, and these aren't in any order of priority, but number one, put behind you what you can't do and put before you what you can do. Okay, I know that's pretty simple, but I'm watching all kind of people put before them what they can't do. They're putting before them anxiety and worry and fear. They're putting stuff in front of them that they absolutely, the questions they're asking. There's a whole bunch of stuff we can't control. And if you can't control it, if you can't do it right now, just put it behind you. It's okay. Put it behind you. Let's talk about what we can do, what we can control. What are the things that I can do right now to make it? For example, what I can't do, my list is simple. I travel all the time. Guess what I can't do? I can't travel. I speak to crowds in proximity, publicly all the time. Hey, I can't speak. Hey, I'm a leader, so what I do, I talk about the future a lot. I'm not talking about the future a lot right now. I'm kind of like everybody else. I'm not certain about some things. Now, I'm very clear, but I'm not certain about some things. There are just some things right now I can't do. I told Mark, who does a fabulous job overseeing all the John Maxwell Enterprise. This isn't the great sell time for the resources that we have. That people, they're not focused. Now, there's a lot of things I can't do. Okay, I got that. That's all behind me. But what can I do? Well, I can do this today. I can get out of my comfort zone and do technology, which I'm not good at all. But I must confess, even though I'm coming from my home, my friend Andrew, who's on my team, came over here to make sure that this thing really works, because he knows how bad I really am. But what I can do is I can come to you every Monday at noon through technology and hopefully give you some stuff that'll really help you. But what I can do is I can write. In fact, I'm in my last week of writing what is my most important book. It's going to be called Change Your World, and it's all about transformation. How do you transform your community? How do you transform the people right around you? And I'm in my last week. I can't sleep, to be honest with you. Yesterday, I got up at 3:30 because my mind was so full of ideas that I had to get up because I had to start writing, because I was afraid I was going to lose them. And again, this morning, I was back up early. And I can start to smell. I can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I can start to smell some victory here. But that I can do that right now. I can add value to you. I can do my very best to do that. I can certainly take care of myself. I can take care of my family. Right now I can do some catch up. I don't know about you, but I had a stack of my office here of probably 18, 20 books that I've just stacked up that I just hadn't gotten to. And so I'm slowly kind of working through that. Okay, these are some things I can do. And there are a lot more. I don't need to go into that. Here's what I want you to understand. There are two expansion quotes. If you really want life and the good stuff to get in front of you and get clearer and bigger, there are two expansion quotes I want to give you. I already gave you one. What you focus on expands. The second one, though, is about courage. And I love this one as much as the other one. And this statement is that life shrinks or expands in proportion to your courage. Now, what's beautiful is, if we can get these two statements side by side, and they really are basically the same statements, what that's really saying to us, I love this, is the fact that if we'll put before us the important things, and if we'll have courage to do them, all of a sudden, our world in front of us is just going to expand, get clearer, get better. And the world that is behind us will become less. You see, focus and courage are two incredible mobilizers, okay? They just are. It's like the, if you were like when I was a kid, the story that I love, my favorite story as a kid, what my mother would read me was the little train who thought he could. It's about the little engine, or guess the little engine who looked up and saw the big hill, wasn't sure he could, but he said, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. Focus, 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 kept going. He's got courage to try the hill. He's focused on the hill. He gets to the top. I thought I could, I thought I could, and off he goes. I love that story. In fact, I used to kind of act it out. In fact, I remember going to my class one time and acting the whole story out. But the point of it is if you have courage to focus on the important things in front of you right now, what can you and I do right now that expands? Number two, and this is kind of for maybe the business world, but I just say to you right now, okay, I got to contextualize this, but put behind you the sale, and put before you adding value to people. Now, obviously, we got to sell. Businesses have to, grow, and businesses have to, they got something that they have to exchange for that keeps them in business. I understand that, but I'll tell you what really centered me on this is I was thinking of the other day, I was taking a walk, and I was thinking about two questions that have to do with branding and what people think of us. And I thought of two questions, and I want to throw them out to you, and then I think it really helps me contextually with this statement. Here they are. One of the questions we ask ourselves is, what do we want others to say about us? What I want others to say about me? Hey, I want them to say I'm their friend. That's why what I tell you all the time. Oh, my name's John, and I'm your friend. Why do I tell you that all the time? Because I want you to know that I'm your friend. So what do I want? What do I want you to say about me? I want you to say, John's my friend. Okay. Well, same thing. What do you want them to say about your business? Right? Okay. That's the first question. The second question, though, is what do they say about us? Now, those questions are almost very similar, but I'm telling you, there's a huge gap between what do I want you to say about me and what do you say about me? What do I want you to say about my company and what do you say about my company? You see, one is the ideal, what I would hope you would do, but the other is the real. One's ideal, one's real. And what you say about me is really the effect I have on you. That's why I love this idea right now of adding value to people. Now, I try to do it every day. It's truly, nothing's changed in my life. I've always put adding value to people first. But what I want you to hear is very important. What they say about you is going to be greatly determined by how you and I take care of our clients and our customers right now. And I can tell you that if you're just put the people first and add value to them and serve them and let them know and let them know that you just really care about them for people, I can tell you can close that gap between what you want them to say and what they do say about you. It's Zig Ziglar telling me when I was a kid, if you'll just add value to people, and if you'll put them first, they're going to take care of you too. And I bought into that then. I buy in it today. I buy into it today more than any other time. You see, as leaders, I think I got this from Kevin Myers. But as leaders, we want to constantly let our people know that we want more for them than we want from them. We want them to know that. So this is the time. This is the time to really do that. I was talking to another business. I was doing one of our legacy people. I was helping them with their company a little bit, and they're in real estate, and they were sharing with me that that right now they're offering a lot of free just training classes to real estate people, and they decided to open up to anybody. I mean, if you're in our company, okay, this is free training, but if you're not in the company, it's okay too. And we want to share with them. And I asked them how it was going. And as they were talking to me, they said, John, what's very interesting is people that are not in our company at all, they're coming back to us and they're saying, you want to help us more than the people in our company want to help us. You're thinking about us more than the people that in the company that we belong to. And I thought to myself, what a beautiful way to position yourself, to where they look at somebody that's not even the real estate company that they belong to, and they're saying, well, they're helping me more than my own company's helping me right now. There's just something about right now putting people right in front of you. For example, this is so simple, but every day, I've done this throughout the entire month of April, every day, There are 5 different people. Every day I pick 5 different people to touch base with, and just, what can I do for you? How can I help you? Is there anything I can add value to you in your life? And every day I go through a different group of 5, and it's not a long list. It doesn't take me that long. I text them many times in the beginning, or give them maybe a quick call. But it's just, I'm just wanting them to know, hey, you're in front of me. I'm focused on you. Number 3, put behind you your reactions and put before you your reflections. Crisis causes people to react like crazy. Okay. Wow. And I'm just saying to us right now, the easiest thing for anybody to do is react. But that brings you and me to no good leadership position at all. We need to reflect so we can respond. What we need is good responses based upon thinking and reflection and meditation and prayer. What we need is responses based on reflection, not reaction based on emotion. And I can still remember in the 2008 financial crisis, that was what kind of stimulated me to write the book. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And I'm just saying to you right now, don't count your losses right now. Count your lessons. Just focus on the lessons, because I'm here to tell you, if we pull away every day and reflect and observe and look around us and say, what am I learning from this? How is this changing me? And is it changing me for the better? Am I swimming upstream right now? Because if you're changing for the better, that's exactly what you're having to do. The other day, Mark Cole and I were having a conversation, and he gave this to me, and I thought it was so good. He said, John, we were talking about the business, the John Maxwell Enterprise. He said, John, business will always follow values. So what he was basically saying, you know what, John, if your values are just good and strong, basically all your business practices, they just get in line with your values and they go down the values lane. But he said, but values will not always follow your business. And I thought that was so true, because if you and I have our mind totally on business, and well, I'm losing money right now, and what should I do to the people, and should I put them first? All of a sudden, those values can get behind us. Keep the values in front of you right now, and reflect on them and what they're doing. You see, during a crisis, Chris Hodges sent this to me. Oh my gosh, maybe right at the very 1st of April. I've had it on my desk and I've looked at it some, but I haven't talked about it at all. But he sent this to me, and I thought how true it is. There are 3 zones during a crisis, and the first zone is where a whole bunch of people are living right now. It's the fear zone, and that's the reaction. Remember, I'm saying put behind you your reaction. When I am in the fear zone, I am continually reacting. You know what? I'm going to the grocery store and I'm buying toilet paper I don't need. I just am. That's who I am. What have you done today? I bought toilet paper today. That's what I did. I'm just absolutely fear-based reacting. There's another zone in a crisis that we can go into if we want to, and that's the learning zone. That's the learning zone, and that's where we reflect. That's where we say, okay, what am I learning in this period of time? I hope every one of you are making a list of the things that you're learning, the things that you're changing. I have a list, and every day during this crisis, my list gets a little bit clearer, and it is a little bit more impacting on me. One of the things that I've really had to reflect on a lot, and every day what I'm doing during this time is I'm taking long walks, and one of the things I'm really reflecting on is that this crisis is showing me is I don't have big enough margins in my life. That I to be honest with you, I love living on the edge. It's who I am. Okay, so that's a problem you can pray for me. In fact, I have one of my favorite quotes: if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much room. Okay, so you got it. That's who I am. But during this time, I have time to really write my transformational book, Change Your World. And I'm able to go to a whole different level writing this book than I ever have any other time. I am going through this book now for the 6th time. And every time I just take it up another notch, another notch. Charlie and I talked for an hour today, and we're spending another week. And guess what? I'm getting ready to go through it for the 7th time. And the only reason I can do this, I am going to be able to have a book that's going to help people really become transformational in their lives and their people's lives. But the only reason I'm going to have a book that has its depth and its gravitas that it has is because I have time. If I would have had my regular schedule, could I put the book out? Yes. Would it have been the book it is now? No. And the question I'm asking all of us right now, it's an important question, is what are we upping in our life? What is getting better in our life? What bar are we living? What level of excellence are we getting up higher because we have a little bit more time maybe to do that? And what it's just taught me, okay, the lesson I'm learning is the fact that I just need to get a little bit more margin in my life, because there's another level of excellence that I could have if I had just a little bit of that margin. So there's the fear zone, which is reactive. I'm reacting in that zone. There's the learning zone. Okay, now I'm reflecting. And then there's the growth zone. And the growth zone is where I respond. And that's why I said, if you react, it's fear-based. But if I reflect, then what I can do as a leader is I can begin to respond. I can give answers that have purpose. I can give answers that have meaning. I can give answers that have direction and depth to them. There's a maturity that I can have in this growth zone that's just going to help me to go to a whole new level. See, here's what happens. Because of the crisis, there's a lot of uncertainty because they're focused on the outside. And a lot of people are asking themselves right now, I'm not sure my life is going to be better after this crisis. And I understand that, because there are a lot of people that are going to take incredible financial hits. There are businesses that are going to close. I'm taking financial hits. The John Maxwell Enterprise, we're bleeding. We got that. We got that. But let me tell you something I'm absolutely sure of about this crisis. I can't talk about you, but I can talk about me. I promise you, I'm going to be better coming out of this crisis. I am going to be better. That's very exciting to me. I'm going to grow on the inside to a whole different level than I've ever grown. And I just want to challenge every one of you. Don't count the days, make the days count. I just want to challenge all of us to put behind us the reactions of everybody. And, it's always the same thing. What's great about watching the news now is you can skip a week, turn it on, and it's the same as it was last week. Nothing's changing. Or else we can put before us that I'm going to reflect, and I'm going to get in the growth zone. I'm going to get in the learning zone during this crisis. Okay, number 4. Put behind you the difficulties and put before you the progress. I just love this thought, and I hope I could do a good job with it, because one of the things a crisis does is a crisis takes you and me, all of us, out of automatic. And can I tell you something? We all love automatic. Automatic means I got it down. And I don't need to give an incredible amount of thought to it. I don't need to figure out a new system, because I already know the road to take. I've already got the plan. I got it. And we love I got it, because I got it means we don't have to give quite as much time to it, because we got it. And in a crisis, we don't got it. I don't know what you got in February, but you don't got it now. One of the things I think that's healthy of this crisis, I think it brings to a great sense of humility to all of us, that we're not in control, that we don't always have answers, and we're not always the man. And I think that's just very healthy for me. I think it's healthy for you. I think it's healthy for all of us. And I just want to talk to you about the very fact that put behind you the difficulties and put before you the progress. So I'm going to come back to automatic in a moment, but let me just make sure I contextualize this right for you so you got it. Booker T. Washington said this. He said, success is not the position that you've arrived at. He said, success is what you had to overcome to get where you are today. So Booker T. Washington had this all down. He says, when you look at a person and where they have arrived, don't look at that and say they're a success. Look at what they had to overcome to get there. And what happens is the crisis has taken us out of automatic. Now, when we're in automatic, what happens to us? Well, when you're in automatic, when I'm in automatic, we're filled with assumptions. We literally live every day with assumptions. It's always been this way, and it always has worked this way, and so it's going to be this way. And so we just kind of go down this automatic assumption trail. Assumptions aren't good. Assumptions don't cause me to ask good questions. Assumptions don't cause me to think. Assumptions don't cause me to reflect. We all take assumptions for granted. And anybody that's in the assumption arena, we take them for granted. So what's happened is we've gotten knocked out of automatic. Crisis doesn't let us be in automatic. And so that what happens is we lose those assumptions. That's a good thing. The other thing that happens when we get out of automatic is we get kicked out of the very center of our comfort zone. We're kicked out. I mean, nobody right now is looking and saying, I'm right in the middle of my comfort zone. You see, we've been kicked out of that. And let me also tell you that when we're in automatic, we're not very adaptable. We're not very flexible. We're not in automatic. We're not very hungry. And this crisis has taken us out of automatic. When we're in automatic, let me tell you, we're going downhill in automatic. I teach that everything worthwhile is uphill. Let me tell you something. Uphill is not automatic. It's never been automatic. It's not going to be automatic. Downhill is. So when we're in automatic, there's this tendency for us to coast. We think we're a hotel room with a do not disturb sign on us. I mean, just kind of, I got it. Please don't disturb me. Wow. So put before you the progress you're making. Let me just say this. I can remember, most of you know that I was a pastor. And when I was in San Diego, we bought 80 acres of ground in Southern California, and we had to get it zoned. I cannot even go into that story because I just want to, it took us 11 years to get it zoned, and it cost us $8.5 million. Okay. Hundreds of meetings, ridiculous red tape. We had a black-tailed gnatcatcher that didn't even live on the property. It just landed on the property, and it was an endangered bird. We literally, just to show you the stupidity of people, we had to buy another plot of ground about a mile away, about the size of ours, as a resting place for the black-tailed gnatcatcher, since we would be disturbing the environment where the black-tailed gnatcatcher every once in a while landed. Now, you got to understand, during this time of 11 years of, are we going to get the land or not? Get money for the land. In fact, I had to stand in front of the people and say, we need you to help us financially, because the financial package was going to be so huge. I knew I had to get in front of it. And then I would say, by the way, the sacrifice you're making, we're not even telling you we can buy the land. We've got to get it approved. 11 years. Now, okay, just let me be me for a moment, and then I'll kind of go back into nice. If I'd have known that black-tailed gnatcatcher, that bird was going to cost us so much money and so much time, I'd have just gone out and shot the sucker. Honestly, hey, 2 years in prison, we could got on with our life. Okay, now listen to it. Okay, I'm just having fun with you. Relax, take a pill. Okay, here we go. This is important. I look back at my leadership during those years, and I can't show you the growth I had during the good times. I can show you growth. We had growth, but we raised $35 million. We were in midst of difficulty, and the progress we made, even though it was much smaller progress, was special ground to us, because that was filled with blood, sweat, and tears. So put behind you the difficulties, because we all have them right now, the crisis, and put before you and appreciate and value the progress. The story I like to tell, So often as I was at a conference, we had about 2,500 people listening to, I was doing a leadership conference, and a guy during the last break, I was signing books, came up to me, young kid, nice kid. And he just looked at me and said, I've been watching this. This is amazing. I'm learning all these leadership principles. Everybody's enjoying it. He said, I've decided I want to do what I want to do what you do. I said, that's great. I like that. I said, just have one question for you. Would you like to do what I did so you can do what I do? You see, that's the question. Some of you are going to come out of this time and you're going to have such respect for yourself. You know, I teach that respect is earned on difficult ground, that moral authority is given when you are leading people through highly difficult times. And when you come out on that other side, I just want you to know that your greatest days of growth, as far as what it does for you internally, are right now. And that internal maximizing of growth will eventually pay off to the external also. Trust me, if it's in here, it has to get out there. It's just a matter of time. Number five, put behind you the personal benefits and put before you the people benefits. Now, this is kind of close to, you know, put behind you the sales and put in front of you adding value to people, but there's a difference. And let me tell you why I give you this point, that put behind you the personal benefits. What am I going to get out of this? And put before you the people benefits. And that is the reason I'm giving you that thought is I was listening to Patrick Lencioni the other day. He has a new book out. It's a very good book called Motives. And Patrick said that the question of leadership is this: why do you lead? Now, if you've heard me teach on leadership, I talk all the time about how I like to go to a person and say, okay, why do you want to become a leader? And Patrick did such a succinct job on this. He said, I always want to know why you want to become a leader, because that's going to tell me everything I need to know about your leadership. And he said, basically, there are two reasons to become a leader. One is reward, and number two is responsibility. And he said, if you're a leader, that you're in it because of the perks of leadership. I mean, oh my gosh, if I lead, I get a parking place, I get a good office. If I lead, I get all the. If you're in it because of the perks of leadership, he said, during a crisis, you won't show up because the perks are gone. But if you're in it for the people, if you're in it for the responsibility of helping lift the load, he said, then all of a sudden, this becomes absolutely huge in your life, because this was the moment you were born for. This is the tough time that you help the people have the victory and get the win in their life. We've all heard the statement, you know, minor surgery is on you and major surgery is on me. Same surgery, but it's minor if you're having it, it's major if I'm having it. Well, I'm saying put behind you. Let's just get behind us all the stuff that would benefit us right now, or what we want. And let's put rewards behind us. Let's put responsibility in front of us, because you see, leaders see more than others see, and they see before others see. I call that the leadership advantage, and that's a fact. But because I have that leadership advantage, that I see more than you see and I see before you see, I either take that advantage and I put you before me and I serve you, or I take that advantage and I put me before me and I serve me. So put the personal benefits behind, you know, hey, put the people in front of you. Okay, I'm going to do one more. Wow. Okay, here's the last one. Okay, there are maybe 9 or 10 of them total, but let's see. I got 9 of them. You get 6 of them. Okay, but here's one that this is just really good. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come back to 6. I'm going to give you right now the other 3, because you're going crazy right now. You're saying, wait a minute, I'm getting 6 out of 9, and I know what melancholics do like that. So I'm going to give you the other 3. I just can't talk about it. But so you got your outline when you give to your people. I'm coming back to number 6. Number 7 was put behind you your feelings and put before you your values. You and I have to be value driven right now. Number 8, put behind you the future and put before you today. Now that this is, I wish I needed a little context there, but I'm just telling you the best clarity you have right now is today. There's a lot of uncertainty out there, and let's lead today. You know, today matters. And then the last point was put behind you complaining and put before you gratitude. Yeah, just put before you gratitude. Very simply, right there, gang, is you just can't moan and lead at the same time. So who wants to follow a moaner? I mean, who wants to get up and say, "Hey, John's going to moan again today. Wow, won't this be a joy? I'm going to get inspired as he moans. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my." Okay, here we go. So let me go back to the last point, and this is it. And that is, I want you to put behind you who you were, and put before you who you can be. I touched this a little bit earlier, but I'm coming back to it now. When I said, at the end of this crisis, am I going to be better? That's the question. At the end of this crisis, are you going to be better? And when I do learning lunches, I've done learning lunches for 40 years. Once a month, take somebody out to lunch, buy them lunch, bigger, better, faster, smarter than me. I ask them questions. When I do learning lunches, I have 7 questions. And one of the questions I ask is, what is the most important lesson you've ever learned in your life? That really just helps me to know what they've gone through and how they've overcome it. Now, I asked that question. I've asked that question hundreds of times. And let me tell you something. I get different answers, but every answer I have gotten over 40 years comes out of the same setting. And this is what I don't want you to miss. If I were having a lunch, if I were having a lunch with you right now, it's just you and me, the two of us. And I ask you, what's the most important lesson you ever learned out of life? Here's what I know. When you gave me the lesson you learned would be out of a dark, difficult time in your life. 100%. I've never had anybody say, the most important lesson I ever learned in life was when I was on top of the mountain and everything was going wonderful and I was just being highly successful. No. They'll say, let me tell you something, John. And they'll take me to a valley. They'll take me to a dark time. They'll take me to a crisis. Because that's what awakens us. That's what gets our attention. Hey, that's what gets us out of automatic. We don't want to be an automatic. It gets us out of automatic, and all of a sudden we realize we aren't in control and we don't have those answers. And there's a sense of humility that comes in our life. And that's where we learn the greatest lessons of our life. By the way, wisdom isn't from somebody that just has a lot of knowledge and reads a lot of books. Wisdom always comes out of very dark, crucible times in a person's life. That's where wisdom is birthed. So what am I saying to you today? It's very simple. Many of us are going to look back and say, it was during the coronavirus that some things really began to change in my life, some values, some priorities. I kind of had a little bit of time to kind of readjust and adjust and make those changes. And that's what I want for you. So what you focus on expands. I love this visually. Put the things you need to look at before you. Put the things that are just going to weight you down and not get you where you want to go. Put them behind you. And God bless you.
At the very beginning, he talked about the best motivation is self-motivation. And for me, if you take the Strengths Finder test, as I've grown as a leader, my top 5 have changed over the years, but number 1 has always been positivity. And so all from the time I was a young person, people would say, Tracy, you're so motivating, you're so positive. And so as a young person, a budding leader, I don't know who needs to hear this today, but I know somebody does. I felt like that was my calling. That meant that what people were saying to me was that my role was to motivate people and to bring that positivity to people, which was true to some degree. But what I found myself doing a lot of the time was exactly what that quote said. And that was, I was motivating promoted people. I was motivating the wrong people. Yeah. And the quote from Tom Golisano was that you can demotivate people, but you know what also? You can demotivate yourself. That's right. When you are trying to motivate the wrong people, it is exhausting. So if you think of this as your little check mark, if you're wondering if you've been motivating the wrong people, if you find yourself exhausted, demotivated, a little down and discouraged, if you feel like you're ready to throw in the towel because maybe you aren't a motivated or positive person and you're starting to feel negative even, then odds are you have probably been trying to motivate the wrong people. And so I'm just curious, Mark, did you ever need a thinking shift, or were you always a leader who motivated yourself, motivated the right people, or were you somebody who also, like me, brought your positivity? Because you're a very positive and motivated person. Just to be around you, I know people just walk away from you smiling and a little spring in their step. Were you always that way, or were you somebody who, like me, found yourself a little exhausted and demotivated from motivating the wrong people?
Yeah, so I wish I could say, yeah, I once had that problem, but the real truth is I still have that problem. And I'll tell you what I mean with that. You know, as John was teaching that, and even Tracy, as you were just talking about kind of your epiphany back in earlier in life, I thought about the question that John gets asked all the time. Hey, how do I motivate my people, right? Any leader out there want to lift their hand and say, yeah, that's me. I want to know, how do I motivate my people? Yeah, Tracy's got both hands up. I've got both hands up. I want to motivate somebody, please. And John says, here's the best way to motivate people. And everybody kind of grabs their pen and their paper. And if you're watching on YouTube today, I mean, I've got my paper ready. I'm ready to hear what John has to say. And he says, the best way to motivate people is hire motivated people.
Yeah.
And now it's so fun to kind of laugh and go, yeah, that's right. Well, what happens when we are the people? When the people that needs motivating is us, is you, the leader in the equation. And I think, Tracy, that's what you're asking me is, how do we lead ourselves? John says leaders motivate themselves, followers wait for others to motivate them. And I do want to be an inspirational person. In fact, my life purpose that I discovered at 33 was Mark Cole exists to motivate and inspire people to reach their full potential. And I know that to live out that purpose of inspiring or motivating others, it has to start with me. And yet, there are times that the last thing that I feel is motivated or inspired. And so I do think the idea of inspiring oneself is a muscle. It's something that we have to work at. We have to put into practice. What motivates you? What's your happy place? What's things that refuel you and replenish you? What is your ideal Sabbath or time of rest so that we're working from rest rather than resting from work? And I mean, I believe that's really important, but I also think, Tracy, that for us as leaders, we do have to realize that if we rely on external circumstances or external relationships or external factors to motivate ourselves, we are in for a very difficult road in the area of leadership. There has to be within us, much like what Tracy had, an epiphany that says, I am going to be my chief motivator. I can't rely on others. I can't rely on circumstances. I've got to find ways to inspire myself so that I will inspire others. And I think that's what John's saying here, Tracy. I think that's what your epiphany was. There has to be in each of us a realization, an accepting of responsibility that if we are going to be motivated, if we're going to inspire others, it is going to be up to us to motivate ourselves. And I think that's a big distinction between leaders and followers, as John noted in the lesson today.
I agree. And I don't want, if you didn't get this and write it down, I wrote it down as Mark said it, because I haven't heard you say this before, and it's powerful to me. We should be working from rest rather than resting from work. And I think so many of us limp into the weekend, whatever day that is. Maybe it's a Saturday, Sunday, or maybe it's a Monday, Tuesday, or whatever your work schedule is. But so many of us limp into the weekend rather than, and then try to gear back up again for the Monday of our work week, rather than every day waking up refreshed because we are rested. We are staying in a place of rest so that we are working from that rest. And that is, if you don't know what that is, if you don't know what that feeling is, then you're probably resting from work.
Yeah.
And it's a huge difference. So thank you for saying that, Mark. And I think that really does bring a motivation. And you and I were talking a little bit before this. one of the things that John says that is a distinguishing mark from him from other leaders, and that is that he talks about being a motivational teacher, not a motivational speaker.
Right.
Can you kind of differentiate that for people who maybe haven't heard him say that before?
Yeah, so just come to a John Maxwell event and you will leave inspired. In fact, we did a study in 2021 on why people make a decision to become a customer, a client, a partner of the John Maxwell organization. We were in the middle of our rebranding and we wanted to know the why. Why did people come? And so whether you talk to prospects, whether you talk to one-time customers, or whether you talk to multiple customers, over 80% of them said, we came for inspiration and skill development. We wanted a few tools that would make us better, and we wanted some inspiration. John is a motivational, inspirational, incredible teacher. But John says, hey, I don't want to be a motivational speaker, because a motivational speaker, you feel good, but 30 minutes later, you can't remember why. But a motivational teacher, you absolutely can feel good, but you know why, the skill set, the application piece.
Right.
But something that most people would not know about John in the area of creativity or in the area of leadership even. When we have things that we need to make decisions on, and I've brought him into those decisions, he doesn't come in like he does from stage. He goes, we got this. Come on, guys. Everybody good. I'm more lean toward that, to try to passionately inspire people through challenges. John settles down, almost becomes melancholy in his demeanor as he works through it and allows that grind or that challenge to be felt in the room, and doesn't try to get people hyped over it. Again, I have to be careful with that, but not John. And so it's an interesting observation of John that when he's on stage, when he's got the teacher's lesson in hand, that he really challenges and inspires people through motivation. But yet when he gets into a leadership context, he very much settles his emotions down and begins to methodically work through that particular challenge. I every day try to learn from him. Every trip, just a weekend ago from the time we recorded this podcast, I was asking John, help me to distill below the emotion to the reality of the situation so that we can practically work through it. And I think we as leaders need to understand when we need to motivate and inspire people, and when we need to be accessible and steeped in reality of a difficult situation. I think John's given us a lesson on that with these 4 Ps.
Yeah, he sure does. I love how you said that. He brings his energy low and getting below the emotion, that he does not rely on the hype of energy. And as two energetic people, you and I can relate to that and really that is a lesson to be learned for people who are high energy people, to settle in, and so that you don't walk away, that the people in your hearing as a leader, that they don't walk away not knowing what to do.
That's right.
Feeling so good. And I can tell you, I have left where I know that my audience felt really good. And I know that they felt good. And I know that they felt probably that they liked me, but they didn't know what to do.
Right.
And I know that I've done that before. And so it's just another learning lesson. And so getting into those 4 Ps, I feel like these really, the 4 Ps that inspire effort. And I feel like he really, in perspective and perceptive, I feel like he really, was there anything that you wanted to touch on those, and persistence? I feel like he really did a good job teaching on those. Was there anything that you wanted to touch on those before we get to persuasion?
The only thing I would say on perspective is often we put our perspective on other people and we think, wow, if this motivates us, it has to motivate everybody else in the room.
Right.
And that's not true. When John's teaching this perspective, he asks the question, it's in your notes, how do others see things? And many times we as leaders, we fall prey to the trap of trying to motivate people the way we're motivated rather than motivating the people the way they are motivated. And so leaders, communicators, Get into the shoes of the people that you're trying to influence and understand their motivators, their perspective, and that's true on perceptive too. And the things that used to motivate me don't motivate me anymore. I've changed.
Right.
I've matured. I want maybe less partying and a little bit more significance in my life. And a leader needs to understand the phases or the seasons of the people he or she is leading to be able to motivate. And that's what John's talking about with perceptives. But again, it goes back to the perceptive of the individual you're trying to lead or influence, not your perceptive. I've often thought, man, a new car has motivated me at different times in sales contests and different things. And somebody else goes, I could care less about that. As a leader, we need to understand the things that really grab their attention and use those in our inspiration.
And I think that works both professionally and personally. I mean, I'm talking to parents right now that when you're trying to motivate your kids and different kids, what motivates one kid is going to be totally different. So these can apply, these 4 Ps, inspiring effort. It's not just about teams in the marketplace. We're talking about in families too, because we are raising up leaders in our homes.
Yeah.
And so if we're going to inspire effort in our kids, it's about asking the questions and inspiring the thirst in the horse of our children
That's
that
right.
we really want to make sure that we do that as well. Okay, so let's jump to number 4, because I would like to park it a little bit there. And I know that you and I talked a little ahead of time that's really one. We hated for it to it was like a cliff. He walked us up to the cliff and we were like, oh, we wanted a little bit more.
Hey,
and so
Tracy, he walked us up to the cliff and said, take it away, Mark and Tracy. You guys go for
that's
it.
Right.
And so that's
So
what
we
we're
will-
going to do.
That's right.
Tracy, it's funny you just mentioned that, make the kids thirsty. In the lesson, you heard John say that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And so then he says, you know, a lot of people think you've got to inspire them to drink. And John says, no, you got to inspire them to be thirsty, because when you're thirsty, you'll drink.
Right.
And so
Yes.
I think that really links to the foundation I want to lay with persuasion. And one of the things that you and I, podcast viewers, podcast listeners, one of the things you and I can always go back to in our life is working for a disingenuous leader that really was motivating us for their interest. And if you were watching, you caught the air quotes. For those of you that were listening, I did air quotes around motivating right there. They're motivating us, but really they're manipulating us, right? I mean, it's this idea. Great leaders have to really walk a thin line between motivation and manipulation. And that's why when John began to teach this persuasion through sweetness, I think the sweetest thing to anyone's ear is what? You've heard it said before, their name. When somebody remembers their name. Well, I think in the art of motivation, the sweetest thing that a leader can do to motivate people is to persuade me to do what I want to do. That's sweet. That's as sweet as a name. That's sweet when a leader begins to know me enough and pull out of me the things that I am passionate about that I need to be pursuing. And I really want us as leaders to know the art between manipulation and motivation, or persuasion and trying to prescribe to somebody your opinion of what they want or what they should have. If we can learn how to inspire them to thirst. That's what I want you to write in your notes. Jared, sitting in the studio today, gave me that concept. He said, Mark, I really think what John's talking about, when you lead people to a horse to water, you're really trying to figure out how to inspire others to thirst after their best self, after their best version. And when people get hungry enough, it goes back to a quote I give all the time: when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I'm sitting here today going, how do I, in the art of motivation, how do I inspire people to a thirst, Persuade them to a thirst that will allow them to lean in and let me help them. And it comes back to this one statement. Do the work of knowing your people. Do the work. How can I better understand what causes my people to be thirsty? I love giving personal illustrations, and my personal illustration here is Miley, my Australian Shepherd. She is the perfect dog. Miley, when we travel, and my wife Stephanie and Macy traveled with me this past weekend, and we went out, and Miley just doesn't like to eat while we're gone, and she really doesn't like to eat when we get back. Doesn't drink a whole lot. She loses weight. It's visible. We can see it, and she won't eat her food. She just misses her mother. She does not miss me, because that would be a constant state of affairs. But she misses Stephanie. She misses Macy. And so we got back yesterday, and she still wasn't eating. So now she's about 3 days, not drinking, not eating. So we took her on a run through the park. I mean, we ran, she chased squirrels. We cleaned the park out with all those terrible squirrels. When we came back, guess what Miley did? She went to get something to drink, and after about 15 minutes of cooling down, she cleaned her entire bowl. You know why? We made Miley thirsty. We knew what it would take. Chasing squirrels is the ticket for Miley. Well, find out what squirrels your team needs to chase. And when you can find that, then you can begin to persuade them to be thirsty for their best self. Tracy, I think that's the art here.
I agree. And he said, just as it's about relationship. And we can't miss that. It's what you're showing there is the relationship that he has with Stephanie and with Macy. And I would even say a little bit you. But I feel like what your dog was feeling like, what people, I mean, we're drawn to relationship. And John will say, if you don't love people, you'll manipulate them.
That's right.
And as a leader, that's a great gut check. But for those of us who also have had leaders, what is the questions that John says that we're all asking when we're working with a leader? Can I trust you? Do you care for me? And can you help me?
Yeah.
So when you are in a position where you're feeling like, am I being manipulated here? Some of those other three questions, because what did he say? Good leaders ask great questions. So ask yourself those questions. Is this person trying to help me? Can I trust this person? Because those are those kind of gut checks that you need to ask if you are feeling like you might be manipulated, or if you're the leader, if you're feeling like, am I being tempted to manipulate them? And he said, partnerships, which is relationships, the best partnerships, there is going to be a win-win. It shouldn't just be one-sided where just the leader is winning or just the person we're serving and leading is winning. The best partnerships, the best relationships where people are winning. And going through those 4 Ps where we are inspiring and motivating people is when we're going to see the win-win.
Well, and I go back. In fact, there's a relevant episode we're going to put in the show notes because it's really practical in helping you with motivation. We did 10 maxims for motivation. We did a series on that, and we're going to put that in the show notes because I want you to go back and really get some practical things. The biggest thing I can give you is know your people. Know who it is that you're attempting to persuade, to give perspective, perceptive, persistence to, and begin motivating them.
But one of the first things he said was when he dove into environment. I feel like there is so much meat there. And one of the first things he said was that leaders do what leaders experience together. And one of the things that I remember John always saying is that you can't transfer the emotion, the lessons, everything that you have and you experience when you go somewhere and you try to bring it back to your team. And anybody who has ever gone anywhere and they've experienced something so powerful, you try to come back and you tell it to someone and it's like, you just can't transfer it. And so can you talk a little bit about the value of those experiences and that environment, and how do you bring your team with you to experience that so you don't have to come back and try to explain it to them?
I love this part of this lesson, Tracy, because, and I love what you just said. When you've been given a lot is required. John's often talked about the leadership bubble. We've seen people, I've been with John now for 22 years, and I've seen people come in, and I've seen people excel. I've seen people leave, and I've seen them almost go back to where they were before they ever joined John Maxwell's team. And that was perplexing to me. You know, how can you excel as such a great leader, then you go try something new, and it's harder than you thought? And I don't take great joy or pride in that people are very successful here and then not as successful other places, because I've seen the exact opposite too. People be very successful in John's organization, leave for one reason or another, and then go be very successful. But I think what John is teaching right here on environment, that there does exist in all of us. There is a leadership bubble. There's a learning bubble. There is a relationship bubble. We can get into environments that actually make us look bigger, better, and more effective than perhaps we would be in another environment.
But what I love about you said too there is it's so true, because I think back to the last 18 months, no matter what your KPIs are, we're talking revenue numbers, different COGS, all this, whatever your KPIs are, you should have these goals, whether they're lofty goals, whether they're small goals. And what I was thinking about when you're talking about that, and I want you to unpack this a little bit for us, is I was thinking about the last 18 months when we all had to throw our business plans out the window.
That's right.
And what you came to us and said is, hey, we value growth, and growth is something that we're going to focus on. I'm going to throw out the comparatives, and I want to see a small growth in something in your business month over month. That's what I want to hear about. And I thought that was so important, because it re-engaged our team and go, we'll never get there to that goal point, right? And we got frustrated. You brought us out of that frustration and said, no. Every single month, I want growth of some kind. It may not be what we're used to. It may be a different KPI, but I want you talking about growth. Talk a little bit about the importance of that, when you got to be flexible, but then also dialing it back down and making sure that we're really focused on the small things, which will then take care of the larger things in our budgets, our KPIs, whatever they might be.
Yeah, so Chris, you and I have been a part of John's organization for longer than what you and I really want to admit. Certainly before my 15-year-old daughter was born, before your daughter was born. Was Rylan born when you first started?
He was not.
He was not. So before kids.
Yes, before
okay?
kids.
You and I started, and there's something, again, that I promise you is consistent to us. We, if you're listening, I'm holding up the 15 Laws of Growth book. We value growth. Now, when I say we value growth, do we value growth or do we not? And so what happens back in March and April and March, April, and May of 2020, back in COVID, we kept coming and reporting off of our numbers, Chris, and it was like a funeral every time we came, because we were trying to report off of something that was dead. Our business plans were dead, and we kept coming trying to do it. And I went home that second meeting, and I went, I can't do this again. I can't do it. I will lead through difficult times. I'll lead through it, but I can't be a part of an organization that is post-mortem in everything that we're talking about. I can't do it. So like you said, we threw that out and we began to highlight growth points. I'm going to pause right here. And to those of you viewing, I'm going to challenge you to go pick up this book, 15 Laws of Growth. For those of you that's listening, I'm going to challenge you to go to the podcast notes. And we're going to put a link in there to go order the 15 Laws of Growth. In fact, we've got a discount, 15% off, to celebrate January as Growth Month.
Great book to start the year off
with. It is. And it's a great book to start off with if you've never read a Maxwell book. It's a great book to go back and remind yourself since it's January, because some of you have goals of losing weight. Can anybody relate to that with New Year's resolutions or the other thing? I celebrate every last bit of that. In fact, could stand to lose a few pounds myself. But what are you doing to grow your leadership effectiveness, your leadership influence? That question and a plan around answering that question can be found in this book, 15 Laws of Growth. Chris, when you and I, over the last 20 years, one thing we know is this environment expects growth. I love doing these podcasts with you. We get great feedback all the time. But I'm going to tell you one of the things I love about the last 5-6 years is thinking about the growth that we've been able to see in each other.
Yeah.
Chris, for those of you that don't know, John started putting me on a stage to communicate when I was terrible as Charles Barkley says, terrible.
I was getting ready to say,
I
where'd
was
that come from?
terrible. I was terrible. And Chris, every once in a while, I'll communicate to the team or I'll do something else, and you'll come by and say, man, that was a really good communication. What you're really saying is you were really bad before. No, that's not really what you're saying.
I'm seeing growth in you,
You're
Mark. I'm
seeing
seeing growth in you.
You really are highlighting growth. I do
Yeah.
the same thing with you.
Yeah.
Man, you think about the load you're carrying for our organization right now. You're much more than corporate solutions group leader. You're carrying some of these integrated, merging, acquisition things that we're doing. Why? Because of growth. We didn't set out a goal that said Chris is going to own this many merging and acquisition things that we're doing. We set out saying, Chris, can you grow? Can you find your leadership voice? Can you step up? Are you available? Let's go. And I'm watching that happen.
I appreciate that.
Welcome to the Maxwell Leadership Executive Podcast, where our goal is to help you increase your reputation as a leader, increase your ability to influence others, and increase your ability to fully engage your team to deliver remarkable results.